everyone, and welcome to another episode of Psychic Zen 333. I see that there are some of you who are already here saying hello to us. Hello, Val. Hello, Denise. Nancy, say hi to everyone. Everyone say hi to Nancy.
Hello, everyone.
Denise, Denise was on, Nancy, you don't know, but Denise was on our other podcast the other night, and she did wonderful, and she just expressed a lot of gratitude from what she's been able to learn from us, and she's here tonight, and she's just doing wonderful. So everyone in the chat so far is just giving her a lot of kudos for being on the other night and just offering such a great show to everybody. So there's a lot of love in the room tonight.
Great.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
I know. I'm really excited. So, and Val, I didn't...
Especially with the topics we have tonight.
I know. So tonight's topics, we're having a good time tackling the hard stuff because we've experienced the hard stuff firsthand, or we've worked with others who have experienced this hard stuff firsthand. And where's the way out or the solution to how to deal with it? So tonight's topics are disappointment, depression, and anxiety. So all of these things, I had an experience recently where I was getting Reiki done. I had mentioned this the other night with my friend Andrea, and I was able to see in such a clear way human suffering versus being in a lighter vibration, and how that lighter vibration really does pull us out of suffering, and how suffering really is this denser, lower vibration. So the question is, how do we get to allowing ourselves to experience that higher vibrational self? And when I was answering questions for a friend tonight, earlier today, I spent like 2 hours on the phone. He had some really great questions that he was asking me, but those questions, and the reason why I bring them up, highlighted a lot of what we navigate as far as human experience is concerned, where he's saying, I look out in the world that I live in, and I see that I have to survive, and I also feel separation. But then I learn with you that we're not separated and that we're all one. But I see more evidence of separation in this world than I see evidence of being in oneness. And I want to believe in the oneness, but how do I move out of the way of my own mind and get experience for something that I don't necessarily remember? And I thought when he said that, it really tied into our subject matter for tonight, because it's like, yeah, if we don't have experience, or we don't remember that we are high vibrational beings and from this beautiful place, and that this beautiful place is vibrating alongside us and inside of us, how do we give ourselves the gift of breaking through to get to in alignment with our real self, our true self, source, and otherwise? So Nancy, would you like to start, or should I keep going?
I don't know. What do you want?
Well,
first of all, disappointment is inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
Because of our belief systems, the things we were taught, things that we found out weren't true, things that we didn't know and were true. Or when I say true, I don't mean, completely all the time, but things that happened to us, I should say it that way. And so expectations automatically create separation because people are not always going to do exactly the way I think, and hopefully they don't. I think one thing we have to do is be tolerant. We have to learn the skill of tolerance, where we take an understanding from where someone else is coming from, or we don't automatically judge them for being different or having, different ideas and so on. And I tease, and I'm not totally teasing on this, but one of the things I sort of tease about is that we're all from different planets. Why would we all eat the same food and do the same things or do everything the same way? We don't. Mm-hmm. We won't. If we're not cloned and running in a computer program, when we're not running in the computer program, we are going to do things differently. We're not all going to do the same thing. And learning how to cope with and handle when there are things that are different actually is part of the the problem and this answer, it's not so much that we are not going to have anything disappoint us, because we will. And it doesn't matter how long you're on the planet, there could be opportunity to have something happen that didn't go the way you thought it was going to go, or it would continue to do something that isn't in your line of understanding. But it's how we handle it makes a difference, which is what you were just saying. It's a matter of, well, how do we handle it? Not have, first of all, understand that there's a difference between knowing and there's a difference between ideas and belief systems. The belief systems are always going to get us into thinking too much, and thinking too much is going to make us think that we have the answer, or somebody's doing something wrong, or whatever the case might be. So it's the attachment to the belief systems, I believe, that create a lot of our disappointment.
Right. So one of our questions for tonight was, Nancy, I'm struggling with depression, anxiety, disappointment, and I can't tell if I am practicing patience or accepting disrespect. How do I know the difference?
Oh, I think your heart knows the difference. I think you know when you're being disrespected. And disrespect is just another person's way of handling themselves and towards someone else. So people are the disrespect comes, it's not because you deserve the disrespect. And it's not because you created anything that entails that you have to, put up with it. But the point is, people are, when they disrespect themselves, they're going, whatever the behavior is that they do to themselves is going to be more likely the behavior they do to someone else. So if you feel disrespected by someone or situations or something of that sort, then communication may help. That would be one thing. I like people to understand communications and how to communicate differences.
Agree.
So I'm big on that. I was a hypnotist, so I had to be big on that. So I think that people are going to do things, and they just are. And it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me, or if I'm the recipient of that. It doesn't matter that I do not have to take the seriousness of whatever they did, unless it's life and death kind of things, or something really criminal or something like that. But I don't have to let it char my life and that's just another person, the way they feel about themselves. We've got to learn to, if we're going to look outside and we're going to be run by the outside, you're always going to have disappointment, and you're going to have anxiety, and you're going to have depression. So it's not the outside that fixes things, it's the inside that is more, that's going to help.
I agree, definitely.
And I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I said you do it, and then I do it. It's just, I got to do it when I can.
I know.
The interesting thing is that it's painful if the inside hurts. If you're having depression and it hurts inside, people are not going to be as likely to want to go inside and meditate or go inside. It's going towards the hurt. But the hurt basically is a misunderstanding of something. So it's a thought and an experience and some kind of belief system that has a solution and an answer to it, but you haven't found it yet. And it is inside the good things. We have to shift the way we think about things. We got to shift it to a positive, or play music, or go out, or do sports, or do a movie, or do something that shifts that. But then what happens with depression, and then it comes right back. So I find that you really sort of have to get in touch in two ways. One is you have to make up your mind you're not going to suffer, and you don't want to suffer, especially at the hand of someone else. And the second thing is that not only do I not want to suffer, I'm not going to paint my own picture in someone else's reality. When that's their reality, it's not mine. And it doesn't have to be. And then you go to a higher level, but not everybody's there yet. And you go to a higher level called prayer, religion, whatever the, whatever it might be, meditation. You go to a higher level and you ask them to help you solve the problem.
Agreed. And I mean, at this point, but the great thing is that a lot of our audience has done this with us. So now everybody's on the same page, where we're all operating from a place where we know that the higher level does exist and we are willing to go to it for help. And we're seeing the reaction that that help is bringing into our lives. And it's a very uplifting feeling. And I think that gives people the confidence or the upliftment to look at the pain and say, you know what, maybe in the past you had control over me, but I'm no longer going to feed you and give you this power or control over me, because I recognize my power now, and I'm not going to continue to give it away. Because if I keep making the same mistake by giving it away, I'm never going to get clear or be the person I truly am or live how I want to live. And I'm at the point where I'm ready to live a life that I know that is great for me, that I want and value. So I'm, thank you everybody for being willing to face the fear, the pain, whatever.
But we're talking, we're talking about these beautiful people that are teachers.
Yeah.
And teachers go through it first. And first you go through it, and then you learn the route, and you learn the answers, and you learn to how to communicate it and socialize it and communicate it. And then you teach someone else. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's really important that people have come, and they have, but there's no but to that, other than that's who they are. They're not made to be suffering. People are not. Everybody. It goes across to almost everyone, but it's all made. We were not designed. We were not made to suffer. We were not made to be depressed and have all the symptoms of depression, and we are not made to be anxious. Anxiety is the worry about the future. Anxiety is the future, depression is your past. And so we weren't made to suffer. This isn't what we're supposed to be doing, but this is what happened.
Right. And there's a question here, but before I ask it, want to say a lot. When we were talking about putting this together and we mentioned disappointment as a subject, we said a lot of it goes hand in hand with expectation. What are you expecting from others? What were they expecting from you? What do you expect from yourself? And then how do you negotiate or reconcile what those expectations are? Are you making it a baseline to expect what you're wanting? Are you making it a baseline to hold space for source to flow into your cup? And what is a reasonable expectation versus one that's a construct or a belief system? And as Nancy says all the time, if it works. So if we go off the premise, is it clear? Is it simple? Does it work? Because if it's working, keep doing it. But if it's not working, we need to put in that new skill set. And what is that skill set to be the most effective to alter the life that we live into what we want to be living?
Expectation is man-made.
Right.
So I'm not that fond of having expectation, period. Like people, like as an example, people say, if you were going on vacation or you were going to, someplace, that would be fun and someplace you wanted to go, people would say, so you're going to have a lot of fun, and what are you're going to have? I'm not talking about planning. Mm-hmm. But I am talking about an emotional attachment to the outcome of, you get on a plane, you expect to fly to your destination on time and in comfort and whatever case it is. Mm-hmm. And that's not always the case. But if you let it ruin the trip, and if you let whatever happens unexpectedly happen, and it goes to, it makes the trip sour, and you complain the whole time you're there, and it sort of ruins the purpose of going.
Right.
So, I'm not a big fan of expectation, period. I'm not talking about planning, and I'm not talking about having a certain goal that, I like people. If people like me, great. If they don't, I understand, it's okay. But not to a point of abuse, being abusive. Not to the point, if someone's rude, they need more love. Those are the ones you really want to be quiet and do a prayer for.
Right. So that
especially
actually,
if they're going to involve you in some way.
that really leads me into this question that's here, and now we're up to 2 questions. So here, tying into, am I practicing patience or accepting disrespect? They said, I I want to take action to advocate for myself and my needs, but I don't know if I am coming from a place of ego. Like, oh, how do I advocate to be respected and set boundaries and be treated lovingly in this
Okay,
scenario?
I got that.
Okay.
To me, it's communication and communication skills. More arguments happen over my right to think the way I do or be the way I am and so on than they do about the subject that matters.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something you've heard me say many times too, and that is that it's better to say, if you repeat back to the person, I understand you feel this way. I understand that, I understand that you felt justified to hurt my feelings. I understand that, you did this, but you just can't do that. I just can't I'm just not going to handle it. I'm not going to deal with that. You can communicate without war.
Right. Okay.
But that's very seldom do people communicate without war.
True.
We communicate with criticism. We communicate with a lot of different things because we're already angry. And when we're already angry, our results are going to be more anger out and back. And then it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I personally don't think war wins very much. And if you have an unlit candle again, it doesn't light another candle. So I think by standing up for oneself, I think is to communicate it.
Okay.
To communicate, and if it doesn't work, if communication doesn't work, then you try. If you can, you make sure that you're not around that person.
Right. So in this scenario, the person is living with somebody who has an alcohol issue, and they're trying to move out, but they still have a few months before that's possible. So they're trying to live in the harmony that we're suggesting and are trying to learn, okay, I'm praying, I'm practicing patience, my ego's here, it's a little bit choppy of a situation, can you guide me through how to...
Al-Anon is a good program. If it's done right, it can be good. Al-Anon is not for the person who's doing the drinking. Al-Anon's for the person who's with the person who's doing the drinking or the drug addictions. And the idea is when you have people that are still addicted and still practicing the addiction, they have the right to drink, they have the right to do the drugs, and you have the right not to be around them.
Right.
And you have the right not to participate. You have the right not to be affected by them at all.
Okay.
And so if somebody's going to be moving out and they haven't moved out yet, if they're actively doing things and it's causing trouble, I don't know if the person owns the house or is in charge of the rental that is being the victim here. But that person, as long as that person's drinking, they're not going to be who they are. If it's the people, unfortunately, drugs and alcohol is one of them. If it's used to a point of addiction, it takes nice people and makes them into somebody different.
Right. Right.
And so because they're not the person that a lot of people, at that time when they're doing that, they're not the person that they usually should be. They're not the real person.
Right.
They're altered. So that's the whole point of drugs and alcohol or any drug, sugar, I don't care what drug it is. It alters the central nervous system, so it alters the person. Well, if it's something that's going to be causing a lot of trouble, then there's got to be a way that to have them somewhere else.
Right.
And if they're going to be somewhere, then you're going to have to make sure that you are not caught up in their addiction by reacting to it.
Right. That's really the part where they felt stuck at. Because like whether it's alcohol or drugs or food or money, the idea is that I'm communicating to this person how they make me feel and they're disregarding me. So if I can't...
They're not who she is. If it's a she or he, they're not the person they think they are. When they're drinking, that's not who's there.
Right.
They're altered.
Right.
And as a different person, they're having an expectation of how they should treat you, and communicating it would make sense to someone who's not addicted or not under the influence. It does not make a difference to the person who's been drinking.
Right. So like, I agree with you with everything that you're saying, but if I'm just looking for a solution above, or adjacent to communication, and it's like, let's take alcohol out of the equation. Let's say it's two roommates and they're fighting about food or about boundaries. One's disrespectful and one's not. One's willing to communicate effectively. One doesn't care about their feelings. So how can this person that's trying to hold on to the balance and integrity, how can they, like I recommended prayer. I said, why don't you pray and let God fix the situation for you? Or one thing that Nancy teaches is to look at that person and ask to see them as God sees them, because maybe there's a reason for his disrespectful behavior or their disrespectful behavior. Like,
well, it depends whether the person's, if we're using the word disrespect, that's why I'm answering things the way that I'm answering them.
mm-hmm.
People, it's time to stop attracting people that don't like us or don't take care enough for us. Stop chasing people stop magnetizing people who are not aware of how to treat others and don't have that sensitivity to treat me in a way that I certainly deserve.
Okay.
So I believe for myself, I look at myself and why did I attract this person?
Agreed. And that was definitely shared as well. So what happens? Like, that's a really great point to launch off of, is if we start to see these people on the external, what work can we do, or what process can we use to go on the internal?
You don't judge.
Okay.
Number one, it's a disease, and I think it is. There's a disease that created the disease. In other words, it could be depression, it could be running away, it could be pain and hurt that's never been resolved. It could have been an accident, like drugs, and I'm still in pain, so I take more and more and more. It could be a lot of different reasons for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, if it's, why am I attracting this person? People think they can change people while they're doing the drugs, and that's very unlikely. It's going to take a professional person to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And a professional person can be a sponsor. I mean, it can be a program. It can be someone who understands. A lot of people are with people who have addictions that don't understand addictions and how to be around that person while they're in addiction levels.
Right.
And they, you have to you can go to a group like Al-Anon or someplace, and you can learn, and a lot of things can be saved, and the relationships can be, fixed, especially mostly if that person stops doing whatever the addiction is. But joining, you can't solve somebody's problem when they're addicted. They have to solve it. They have to want to stop the addiction. And so if I certainly, if I complain enough, certainly, if I explain to great detail how you're hurting my feelings and what you're doing, certainly you're not going to want to do that. So then the best that you're going to get out of that result is somebody going into guilt, and that makes the addiction even easier to go to.
Right.
And that's why it takes professionals to take care of this. I mean, you can become a professional. I mean, you can become a well understood person by understanding the problem of addiction. And you don't have to. People have the right to be addicted, and other people have the right not to be around it.
Right. So
and a lot of people, this breaks up a lot of lives, the addictions do. Right. Now, if you're going to wait and see if it works out, if the person gets over it and gets tired of it, yeah, great. There's nothing wrong with that either. But you have to understand that is not the person when they're actually taking the drug. Well, they're a different person. They're not the person you have learned to see them as.
What happens when it's an individual and an addiction is not part of it, but they're not kind to you? Even if you communicate, how do we navigate that?
Why am I attracting people who are not kind to me?
Right, but let's say that you live with them.
Am I used to being with people? I mean, do I have a thing where I feel it's okay that I get treated poorly? Do I have enough self-love? Do I have enough understanding about self-love that we think, or do I think that person's going to change if I complain, if I don't like it, if I love this person and I want to be with this person, and they need to be, if they behave and they do this and that. Well, if they don't change within a fairly reasonable period of time and they're narcissistic in their behavior, they don't care. Again, why did I attract this? And the neat thing about why I attracted it is I can change it.
Okay.
I can leave. I can choose to stay or leave. It's my decision. But if if they're doing it to me and blaming them, or anytime you got a finger out in judgment and blame, you're going to go around and around in circles because you're blaming them and you hope they change.
Right.
And it's harder to make a decision when if you're going to look outside and what the other person's doing and how the other person thinks and all this other stuff, and they're being rude and so on. Well, of course, there may be a reason. I think starting with communication is a good space if you know how to communicate.
Right.
If you're going to blame, if you're going to criticize, and you're going to tell them you're doing this, and they're going to be angry and so on, I don't think that happens. I don't think that's a good idea when you're angry. Do that when you're angry. I think, and again, anger is when something doesn't go my way. If you take it personally, oh my God, they hate me, they're doing this terrible thing, they're doing this or that or whatever, because differences are normal. I mean, people that are together and they're around each other and so forth, it's not actually a foreign idea of people having differences, but it's how we communicate and how we handle it, which makes a difference. And communication, if I'm blaming, if I'm criticizing and so on, if I'm merely speaking, how about speaking, this is how I feel when this happens. This is a way that I'm having trouble because I'm feeling really bad when when you're saying mean things to me. Right. And I don't think we can blame anybody for, take the blame that, if I react to the bad things, that's my deal. It's not, that's true. It's my decision. So I can, I may be more apt to feel pain or feel uncomfortableness when you're yelling and screaming at me. Right. There's ways to communicate, and there's a lot of people on YouTube that are teaching these different ways. I see them all the time where they give suggestions how to do this kind of thing. And I think people should be students. I think we should learn how to live with other people. And there's so much trouble going on in this world right now. Not everybody's a happy camper. That's right. So, and not everybody can stay a happy camper once they are happy. So I think that learning to communicate and learning to, the protection of me is, first of all, not attracting it. The second thing is, if I attracted it, there's a lesson involved. Okay, right. So what's the lesson? What am I supposed to learn about this? Am I supposed to learn tolerance? Am I supposed to learn understanding? Am I supposed to learn run? What am I supposed to learn? And that comes from within. Okay. Hopefully it comes within, because everybody's going to have an opinion what to do.
I've seen this situation happen where, say, two people, they're in a relationship, they're fighting all the time, and then when they both, one chooses to go within and pray about it and get that guidance, they're able to say something that does alter the other person. It's like God is allowed to come into the situation at that point, and there's relationships get turned around, or people get turned around. Parents become better parents, or children become more in alignment with the parent, like harmony gets restored as soon as we make the conscious choice to bring that light in. And I noticed too, like, you could recommend that advice to some people, but if they don't get the results that they're looking for, they tend to get more upset. So, like, constructive remedies for despair, depression, anxiety,
all you can do, Teresa, is to offer.
Right.
And you've got to do it in a way that you don't sound like you're an elitist. Look at me, I have all the answers.
I have Nancy. I have most of the answers. No, I'm just kidding.
Usually we share, I think, again, there's a lot of people and really think that I've got all the answers, so therefore you got to conform to my answer. Communication has, when you come from love, when you come from the God force, you come from spirit, that's the answer to the whole world. I mean, that if we're going to get into answers, that is the answer.
Right.
and everything, but it's a trail. It's a a hit and miss sometimes before you get to that point. And even then, you have to get to the point where you look at yourself and you know it's about you. It's not about the other person.
That's true. That's very true.
It's about you. All of this, what you see in them is somewhere, probably somewhere, someplace I did the same thing.
Right.
Or I could have done the same thing. Or I was, this was an old, so-and-so did it to me and I haven't gotten over it yet. I didn't heal it. So I'm taking it. I'm taking you. You just brought it all up again and I'm going to punish you for all the other past stuff that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think that a lot of these, like this subject matter, depression, anxiety, disappointment, it is symptoms. It's symptom of a root. And personally, for me at this point in my life, I look at the things that cause me pain. And before I zero in on the thing that's causing me pain, I instead turn my view around and I see the way I'm responding to the pain. Because to me, that's the lesson is what, okay, so if I look at the pain, then I'm just seeing the pain and going, ow, 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 ow. That's useless to me. I look at the pain, I turn it around, I look at myself, I say, why am I responding in an angry way? Why am I responding in a sad way? Why is this able to trigger me the way that it does? And I practice self-exploration to be able to understand why this thing makes me feel the way it does, and then I use it as a place to heal. So anytime pain shows up in my life, I use it as a leverage point, but I would not have known to do that if not for going through my time with Nancy and following and understanding the lessons that Nancy's taught me. But that's a irreplaceable vantage point that allows me to maintain my optimism, my buoyancy, my ability to recover through situations, and not get lost in them. So so you see what I'm saying?
Well, Teresa, there are a lot of very incredible masters. The master, the teacher, I've said this many times in my experience, then they quicken things. They give information I wouldn't have thought of, and they bring me into some kind of understanding, or they help me move forward, or they give me ideas. They don't. It used to be like, you do it for me. It was called refuge, and you do it for me. But in today's world, in Aquarius time, everyone, especially everyone, is a teacher. Everyone is got God within themselves. And until people learn that their power and their force is inside of them already, peace is already inside them.
Right.
Everything is inside them. Where you and I come together is we share, and I try to point out, maybe look this way, look that way, and so on. But the point is, every person's designed inside to be peaceful. Now, that's not the case what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So what do people need to learn in order to bring that peace? Number one is, it's inside of them. It's not about everyone being nice. It's not about this world coming to peace. It's about it's about people in this world coming to peace.
Yeah. Peace is definitely found.
And it's like, here's what happens. Teresa, you know this. Here's what happens. When you look outside for the answers, and then you get emotions, and you get hurt inside, and so on. Well, if I'm inside first, and I take my light and peace and harmony, and I'm going to attract the higher level outside.
That's right.
People want to do outside first, and then and take their chances inside, and be hurt, and go through all this pain and suffering and so on. Where the light works differently. The light changes the inside. It brings it. The candle's lit inside, and then it brightens up the outside, so that you can see, so you can understand things.
That's right. That's 100%
and so
right.
It should always, in my opinion, any teacher, any leader, anyone who is anything, and so on. With other people, they're going to try to enhance the other person being as strong, and if not stronger than they are.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the whole idea. But this world is just a big lesson. I mean, it's got one thing after another. People are learning one thing. So if there's pain, pain can be a gift if you take it only I don't like pain, but I have to acknowledge that pain is a gift, because
right.
there's some place in my body that's in physical pain, or if it's emotional pain, or if it's mental pain, or whatever it is, there's something out of balance. There's
Mm-hmm.
some kind of understanding that happened. There's something that happened to me, and I don't have the correct understanding, or I'm not using the correct methods to bring it into balance or peace, harmony, happiness, whatever the case might be, yet. I say yet because pain is a motivator.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
It's going to motivate you
Oh, yes.
into finding problems, or it's going to motivate you into healing. And if you don't want to suffer anymore, you're going to go in the healing side. And if you're going to complain and be upset and depressed is, the past. The past is the past. It doesn't have anything to do. This is why I think understanding breath is so important. One of the reasons, outside of the fact we got to breathe to be here, but outside of the spiritual breath is so important, because it is in the now. It doesn't matter what I've done in the past. It matters what I do right now.
Right.
It matters because right in the breath is the divine. And it gives everyone a fair chance to be out of the depression now. It gives everyone a fair chance to be out of worrying about the future, anxiety now.
Right.
And then the more I do it, the more in longevity does that come into play, because the universe now knows that I do not want to go through this anymore.
Right.
I don't want the imbalance. I don't want to be mean to someone else. I don't want to be rude to someone else. I want people to treat people the way that I want to be treated.
That's right.
So once we catch the universal laws in this, which there are universal laws that are the nature of our universe, and the universal law puts me in alignment. It makes everything happen automatically. There is a spirit, there's a wisdom, a divine universe, whatever you want to call it, spirit, that wants me to have everything. It wants me to have everything that I want, that's light and good and positive for me. And it's right there. All I have to do is vibrate at the same vibration. Well, you're not going to get that with a dead candle.
Very much so true. Denise says on here, I was asked today why it is easier to talk and be myself online and not with my family. I think it's because people online don't judge me, but it was a question that got me thinking. And just like a quick response to that, Denise, I feel like there's an inclusivity that is in this podcast experience, whether you're here with Nancy and I, or Peter and Ash and I. There's an understanding of who you are. You can be authentic. You can you don't have your guard up, and people are accepting you just as you are, loving you as you are. And it's always easier to be yourself, surrounded by like-minded people that love you, rather than people who may or may not understand you.
You know that it's always easier when things are easy.
Yes.
Where the true lessons lie is with our family, because there are different kinds of relationships, and there's some relationships that are meant to go through a whole lifetime together, like family is a lot of times. Well, family obviously is one of them, at least through the time period you have, and so forth. So I mean, that's where the deepest karmas are. That's where the relationships, and when you have marriages, and when you have the different kinds of relationships where you're living together, and you're financing together, and you're doing this, or just say intimate relationships. They're harder because more is at stake.
Yeah, you share more with them.
And that's why it's easier, to be, sometimes strangers are easy, sometimes they're not, but they're short term. I mean, you can walk into, people like ourselves, we can walk into a store, and the person carries on a conversation, and you can have a whole deep conversation with someone and turn around and walk back out.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's others that are deeper, they're here, for a while, and then they, like friendships and so on, and you have this friendship for a while, and then the friendship disappears, or it changes, somebody moves, or they, just goes away automatically for some reason, one reason or another, but they weren't meant to be long term. That's not, whatever got them when a relationship leaves, it's either because of choice, like what we were talking about, abuse kind of thing, or most often it's because whatever was meant to be learned together has already been done.
Right.
So they separate. And then you have the other relationships that are ongoing, and they're harder because there's past lives, there's time frames, there's timelines, and there's all kinds of other things. So whatever theme is going on with that person is not a brand new theme. It's been with you through lifetimes, or it's been with you some other lifetime or timeline. So it's not just this time period. It's accentuated by other lifetimes and so on. So it's deeper and it's harder. But the answers are the same. What's the theme, and how do I communicate? How do I bring this to a highest level?
It's true.
It doesn't matter if it's old. It's just more stuff to work out. Doesn't matter if it's brand new and I meet the person, because if people really knew, I shouldn't say it that way, because I feel this way. Doesn't mean everyone else does, but I can love the person on the street the same way I love my great granddaughter and all the people I love dearly, because love is love.
Right.
You may treat it differently. You may, but once we understand that love is, it just is. It is a state of being. Then we, and we separate it by, this is my husband, this is my girlfriend, this is my daughter, this is my son, this is my friend, this is whatever. We separate it depending on whatever, lessons we have to learn. But the love is the love. It just is.
Right. I have a question for you, Nancy. There's an individual who is here watching with us, and they were talking to me about how they are an empath. And I said, oh, I remember this lesson with Nancy. It's not beneficial to be an empath because you don't want to take on what's physically in the room. So I was wondering if you would talk about your understanding of being empathic on here.
Well, I think people who are empathic are empathic. It just happens to be, it's just like if you go to a banquet, like a place that sells many, many, many foods, and, some foods you like and some foods you don't, or let's say all the food was rotten. Do you really want to take on that food? Or would you rather go somewhere and eat food that is comfortable? I mean, when you take on mass consciousness, you don't even know what all that is. If you take on a disease, if the way that you do healing and you take on that disease, you got two people sick.
That's right.
At least for a moment. Now you got one that can come out of it and maybe pull the other one out. But why do that if you don't have to? Why not just balance it?
Mm-hmm.
So the empathic that walks into a room and picks up everyone's negative energies, okay, that means they're certainly sensitive. That means they're aware. That means that, you stop at the stoplight and you know that the person's going to go right in front of you and they're going to crash into the car in front of you. You can know a lot of different things. But the end result, what's the end result? I don't think I have to be empathic. And the reason I said I don't think it's a good idea right now is because the world is in such a climate, so much anger and hatred and so much stuff, and I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel that way. I have enough trouble keeping myself out of trouble and feeling that way, much less take on everybody else.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can observe them and understand that that's what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer observing rather than taking it on.
Correct.
If you observe it, then you have a chance. When you observe it, you have a chance to get an answer that's going to help whatever the situation is, and from the higher level, and then you have a chance to step back from it so that you can see it more objectively. without judgment,
Mm-hmm.
without this, without that, anything negative. And I prefer to do it. It's just my own preference. Is I don't really. I learned early on. Okay, here's one example. There are, and little kids do this, and parents need to be aware that their kids can read minds. A lot of times they hear the parent, and people don't realize they're intuitive. But not only the intuitive, but they're actually hearing a discourse. They hear and they can feel the energy of the parent. But I learned early on. At first, I started, I had the chance to do the mind reading kind of thing. I don't want to do people's mind. I have a hard enough time keeping my own mind clean. I mean, not really, but I mean, I don't want to hear. I think it's trespassing. I think the reason now, if we were on Venus, we were anywhere else in the universe, we would be able telepathically to hear almost everything anybody thinks.
Mm-hmm.
It's just here on Earth that the veil put it so that you don't do that. Well, it's not that I would misuse that. Some people hear that and it's very close to just being intuitive. I mean, there's a very little line. The only difference is you can actually hear the people saying it. Well, how many times have I said something that I wanted to go back and not or say it differently, or I wanted to, when I thought it, I didn't want to say it out loud until I had a chance to think of the right way to say it.
Yeah.
And yet someone else is hearing it and already judging it.
That's right. I understand that.
So I think it's sort of rude. If you do it, you do it. But it's not my game. I asked for it to be taken away from me.
I remember when we first, discussed it, one of my biggest experiences, most memorable, was that I had walked into a gathering on a Sunday, and when I walked into the building, my elbow immediately began to throb with pain, like screeching, horrible pain. And I realized, I was like, oh, this is somebody in this room has this pain, and I'm supposed to find them to give them messages. And I looked around and I saw this man standing there, and he was glowing white. And I said, you are the person who has this elbow pain, and these messages belong to you. So I walked up to the man and I said, listen, I'm not sure if you're receptive of receiving messages or not, but here are these messages that your loved ones have these things to say. Here's things that are going on in your world, but you just had elbow surgery 2 weeks ago, and you had the surgery here, here, and here, and you have pins here, and I could feel everything. But as I gave him each passing message, the pain receded, and I knew that I had no more messages to give him when the pain went away. So when I met Nancy and I explained that this is how I receive messages, she said, it's not beneficial to you to be that type of empathic. There's another way that you can get messages from your guides.
I don't remember saying that to you, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing. And I'm not telling, I wouldn't want your audience to think, that you didn't have a legitimate, if you were told to go up, I trust what kind of experience people have. If they're told to go up and do this and ask permission to do it, I don't think that's the same thing that we're talking about.
Well, the empathic part, the part that really was like an altering experience for me, was that you taught me that I could speak to my guides and ask my guides to deliver messages to me on a different level, and it changed everything to me. Because
did it? Well, okay, if it worked, good.
Yeah.
But, I don't want you to think that if you get a strong sense to do something, like one of the things that happens for me is I did, if here we have, I live in Las Vegas, so we have accidents around here. People ride into each other and they do all kinds of stuff. So if I see somebody pulled over, or if I see someone in an accident, I just ask for a prayer. I just ask for a prayer. I don't want to go through the accident. I don't want to be in the accident. I don't want to hurt like the accident. All I want to do is be able to observe it and then ask for something nice to happen, or have something nice happen. I don't think there's any rule of thumb that always works on every situation. If you're guided to do something really important like that and go up to the person, what did he gain from that? Do you know?
Well, he gained messages and a lot of connection and clarity to his loved ones.
What did the messages do for him? Do you have any idea?
They made him feel loved from people who had crossed
over.
Well,
then I would trust it.
Right.
I would say, I don't take empathic to me means without permission, you take on somebody else.
Okay.
Empathic means that you walk into a room. If you walked in the room and all of a sudden there were a lot of negative entities there, and you're picking up on them. One good thing may be, okay, maybe I should walk right out of here.
Yeah.
And the other part is, if you were going to try to heal all of them and chase them out and so on. I mean, if you were being asked to do that, if you came because you were an exorcist and you were asked to do that, then that might be different.
Right.
But the empath is constant. The person that's an empath is constantly miserable. I'm talking about the person who's an empath that's constantly miserable because of everybody else picking up too much. They're too sensitive, picking up all the negative and
that's really my point of it.
So it's
like picking up pain. Like, one of the things that when we were learning Reiki together, if you're working on somebody that has cancer, let's say, you don't want to take on their cancer as an empath. You want to protect yourself so you don't take on that cancer or even the experience of the pain they may feel. I would never think
about taking it on.
Right.
Here's where it comes in. I think we're moving in different stories here, but I mean, a different thing, but it's important. Like when somebody says, I've had people say to me, "Oh, I've had a cold and I don't want you to catch it." Well, that was very sweet of them. It was nice. It was thoughtful. It was okay. But in my mind, I'm sitting there, I wouldn't take it on anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I have no desire to take on your cold. If you want me to help you, colds are inner cry. If you ask me to do a healing, or if I knew that they were sick and they told me, they shared with me they had a cold, I would ask for something nice to happen, or I'd call on an angel to, their high self to heal them in whatever way is good. But it's always an offering. With me, it's always an offering. Mm-hmm. I never think of it as an absolute that has to happen my way.
Mm.
I learned a long time ago, it's an offering. It's just an offering. It's not just an offering. And I would I used to do instant healings a lot. You saw me do many.
Right.
And I could even do, at the time, and I still can, I could do instant healings, and people that were in Iran and in the soldiers and so forth that had problems, they could feel what I was doing. But that was my permission.
Right. It's more like, okay, someone makes an appointment with you, because this is how I've seen it. Someone makes an appointment with you to get Reiki to address something, or to do a healing with you to address something. We're taught, protect yourself first so that you can keep your energy to yourself, and then you're just offering a positive energy, and it's up to them to accept it. Yes?
Well, yeah, but when I think what you might be referring to is, if you're going to do a healing, let's say you're there, I'm sure a lot of people on your podcast here are healers too. I'm just saying the way I think. I'm not saying everybody, there's a one way to do anything. But the one thing I made a suggestion is, sometimes, the first thing you do is you ask for a healing for yourself. And the reason you ask for a healing yourself, not because you necessarily think you're going to take on the disease, you ask for a healing for yourself so that you are not biased. So that you're not afraid it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. So that you have faith and trust that whatever is you're shown or whatever you're doing is going to be for the highest good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that may be what you're talking about.
That too. I like how that ties in with the subject that we're talking about tonight, depression, anxiety, disappointment, because we can use that technique even on ourselves. When we want to clear away maybe it's an idea or a construct that is perpetuating the feeling of being disappointed or depressed. Well, if we pray for, to be cleared, if we pray for a healing, whether resurrection angels or to our high self, God, whatever the idea may be, or the being that we're praying to may be, we can ask for that healing to come in for ourselves. And when it comes to others, I feel like the most powerful prayers you've taught me to do on behalf of yourself and others is, I ask that something nice be done for them, to do that which is for their best and highest good in the fifth dimension and above. And just know or trust that that the people you love are going to have something wonderful happen for them. It's just holding space to know that when you ask the higher powers to do something, they're doing it. And that's a really comforting feeling.
If somebody's had trouble with faith on something because of their experience, I mean, when they've had one-sided experience, it's hard to, just because someone says it's going to all change, for them to just go, oh yeah, I know it's already changed. If they know it, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't, there's a couple times where, when I've been asked something, what I do is I said, I will hold it I will hold it in faith for you until you're ready to understand it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's all kinds of things. I mean, it's not, but when going back to the depression in the past, what good does it do to hang out in that depression in the past? Now, some depression can be caused chemically,
That's right.
chemicals, but and the chemtrails, and there's a lot of toxins out here. So I mean, but some of that can be caused through the methods like this. But for me to hold on to to guilt, or to hold on to the pain, and especially if I'm not in it anymore, if I'm not in that environment anymore, and just hold on to the past and hold on to the past and hold on to the past, it was bad enough to go through it in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what people don't understand is that chatter that makes you go through it over and rehearse it and go over and look at it again. It is, well, it can be imagination, but it is those negative chatter in the Maya, those negative voices that aren't you.
That's right.
And it wants to eat. It wants to eat your energy. It wants to have you, be upset and keep it going and keep it going and keep it going. I mean, how many times does a person have to pay the price of something they did? How many times does it take to forgive someone? Do you know?
Mm.
Do you know what it's been said? 7 times 70.
What does that mean?
I don't know where that came from. Maybe it was in a Bible kind of thing. So whatever. But how many times do I have to forgive someone? It only takes one.
What about people that struggle to forgive themselves or struggle to forgive others? Because the depression, the anxiety, disappointment, anxiety is the future. And then you have depression and disappointment, which are coming from the past. Either way, you're not in the now where all the power is.
My past is nothing happened for me. I've never had enough money. I've never had this. This has always happened to me. This has been, if we go through those chatters, that's pretty much what they do. They rehearse you and they go through this stuff. And meanwhile, the past, oh my God, here's another thing. This looks like it's going to happen. This looks like it's going to happen. This person's going to be this. This person's going to do that. I know they're going to do it. They've always done it. They've always been this way. Mm-hmm. And anytime you go to always and never and always,
that's the ego.
Words,
ego. Trap you.
It's a problem, It's going to be, you're going to be not in alignment. Let's say it that way.
Yes.
Because it's meant to hurt you. If we want to get upset about hurt, I don't think we should be upset about any kind of thing like that anymore. I mean, I used to, do these things, but I don't do them anymore. We're in a different age. I don't do the exorcisms anymore. I just light up.
Right.
I just light things up. Why do I want to do that? I mean, I used to do that with, I taught people protection all over the place.
Yeah, we did a lot of that stuff.
And I'm not saying people shouldn't teach it and people that need it and so forth. I'm not saying that. But for me, all I need to do is light up.
It's such a different time now, and it's really amazing to see.
It's because it's a different time.
Yeah.
It's because light has to bend to, or the dark has to bend to the light.
That's right.
It has to. It's a universal law.
That's
and
right.
If you can imagine in your mind you having peace and harmony, and it's inside you. If you imagine in your mind that you can have what you want, And you can feel it and you can imagine it, and you know that God wants you to have it. It wants you to be happy. It wants you to have everything you really, really, really want. And and that's just the way it is. It's a universal law.
Right.
It's backed up. It's backed up to a universal law.
I have 2 questions here for you, Nancy. Denise says, what about when you keep dreaming of a not so fortunate things happen in a person's life? So you dream that not so fortunate things happen to yourself, or you dream about reoccurringly not so fortunate things happening in someone else's life, but they're reoccurring dreams. How do you get rid of the dreams?
Well, I don't know that you have to. Let's first talk about the. First of all, a lot of people their psychic work comes through dreams. You know, it's comes through that astral plane part.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if it's not so nice thing that keeps happening and you keep dreaming it, there's gotta if it's me, I ask, why am I dreaming this? I mean, why am I seeing this? What do you want me to do? I mean, if you're going to give me something that over and over again, it's not so nice, then why am I, okay, why am I getting this? What's the point? Like the dream I had when I had the COVID, and I didn't know I was told it was bronchitis. I commanded right away, if I'm being downloaded, I want to know what the download is.
Right. Right.
And then not only do I want to know what the download, it told me, told me what it told me. I'm not going to repeat it. But and then I figured I must have the COVID then. And then I said, who's programming me? It was the virus. It hit everybody in 2 months time.
Mm-hmm.
And took out their economy, took out people, took out a lot of things. So I mean, it's an AI, whatever my experience was. But that has nothing to do with it. I don't remember dreams all the time. I don't remember dreams all the time. I'm not, but there are people like my niece, Jennifer, if it hadn't been for her dreams, they never would have found me. So, the dreams are important, and you don't have to get rid of bad dreams like that, but I think you need the understanding of it.
Okay. So, Denise, I don't know if you have a specific question or part of the dream that now with this, now that we're having the conversation about it, it's what if I keep having this bad dream about a situation that happened in my life or someone else's life, and now if it's a matter of what is understanding.
She may be traveling. Denise, you might be traveling.
Okay.
Because people travel. That's another reason. You may be having it over and over again. Maybe you're going somewhere where through timelines with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's timelines. You're seeing the same thing over and over again because it has to do with the timeline or timelines. Could be more than one. And maybe you're traveling. Maybe that's why you're picking up on it. How do you get rid of it? You can always ask not to have it. But, I think one way, if it keeps happening over and over again, I'd be asking, where's this coming from and why am I getting this?
That's right. That's right. And then Val says, as far as protection, what do you say for a prayer for protection?
Please protect me. What I do, I may not say it just in the same words that I just used. Please protect me from the top of the ethers to the center of the planet, to the north, to the south, to the east, to the west, in every regards, in all places, in all timelines.
Mm-hmm. For all reasons and all situations, I am surrounded by love, and only love can touch me. I like that add-on too. I love that one. It works so good. We really a big fan. And as far as because Val's also asking, what about certain crystals to wear for protection? If you follow metaphysical books, they're going to tell you it's an amethyst, a black tourmaline, a labradorite, a quartz. But really, the concept of protection is that when you get into the higher realms, when you feel peace, love, ease, joy, light, happy, the things that keep you up higher, that's where your protection is, because the things that vibrate lower can't reach you because they can't go that way or they can't go that high. So my recommendation are crystals that make you feel elated, feel joy, feel love, because that is your ultimate protection. If it's
you can program crystals. I mean, crystals are programmed, and certain, each different gems have different properties and so on, just like people, and just like nature, like plants and other things, and animals and stuff. But I studied under the father of crystals, and this was anyway. We learned to program crystals. I had crystals before it became popular, and I think, again, it's an element, and elements are really important to our life here on Earth.
Agree.
And that protection is automatic. I mean, if you have an M on your hand, you're automatically protected as long as you are moving in the light. Right. But if you want to do something extra, like when I get into a car, I usually do that. Please protect me and others from the top of the ethers to the center of the planet, north, south, east, and west. There's so many things. I was an exorcist. I mean, we learned, you belong to you became a follower of Master U too, and we were healers and protectors. So you learned a lot of dharmas that did that.
But a big thing that I've learned with crystals is that even though they have their list off of properties, a lot of those properties came from either history or, bigger one, commercialism attached to it. So when you find a crystal, they all have, you can have a bowl of rose quartz, 85 different rose quartz, but there's one in there, they all vibrate at different vibrations, frequencies.
Yeah, it's just like people.
Yeah. So when you're looking for that particular crystal that's going to vibrate in a way that works for you, that's accommodating what it is you're seeking with that relationship to that crystal, it's not so much about which one you pick as far as I'm picking this for this. It's out of all these crystals, which one speaks to me, because that's the one that's going to do the most for me. I hope that makes sense, Val. And if you have more questions, we can definitely talk about it after.
I just thought of something else about depression.
Okay, what you got?
Well, and it can be anxiety too. I mean, it can be either one. It can come across both ways, or one or the other, or whatever.
Okay.
Many times this happens. I just happen to think about it. Many times did I have a feeling of depression or anxiety. It was a lot of times it started in like a feeling of depression, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is, there was going to be something happen. It was going to be a big earthquake, or it was going to be where a lot of people passed.
Okay.
And what happens to the soul is sometimes it knows it's going to go. I mean, it gets like the high self knows for sure. So it gets a forewarning kind of thing before it even happens. So sometimes I would be picking up on, they would be coming to my light. I mean, the soul, part of the soul would be coming, I don't know if the soul of the being or whatever, they would be coming to me because they could see the light and they were scared. That would be the other side, the depression and anxiety. That would be the anxiety side. So what I learned to do was I'd say, you can knock on my door, I will pray for you, but you cannot alter me.
Mm-hmm.
Can't come in my or. Sometimes when people are around, there are other souls that have just passed or whatever,
mm-hmm.
and they can come in. This is very common. They can come into a person's aura. They don't have to they might take charge of you, and you don't want that. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't even take that. All they have to do is come into your aura, and they can affect you.
That's right.
So I think it's always good if you have something like that, and then almost every time after I'd have something like that, and this is just something I learned to do, after I had something like that, many times what would happen later, the earthquake or the storm or whatever happened would become public knowledge, and there would be masses of people left. Mm-hmm. How do you take masses of people and put them into our ethers and not have some effect if you're sensitive? Mm-hmm. And that's the empath part again that we were talking about. So
Mm-hmm.
I learned to, if I have that, if I get that and it doesn't go away and I get this anxiety with it and so on, I usually say, whoever this is, you will get all the help. I'm praying for all the help possible, that you have a easy and comfortable transition if this is the case. But you can't come into my aura, but I will pray for you and I will do everything I can to help bring peace and harmony to your transition. Something like a prayer like that or something like that. So just be aware, because there's so many things happening.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I really appreciate knowing that. It's like another wonderful tool for my toolbox. I always get excited for things like that.
Well, I mean, it happens, and like I said, I learned to, oh, wait a minute, this isn't me being depressed. What is this? And then it would be, I bet there's going to be something that happens and I'm just picking up on it and they're coming into my focus so I can pray for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times too, when I feel that way, I pray to the elementals. I'll go stand outside. I'll go barefoot outside so I can get grounded. I pray to the elementals, to do a balance of something, so like when
I love the elementals.
I love them.
If it weren't for them, we would have no food. We wouldn't have much of anything in the physical sense.
Yeah. Our food, our water, our harmony with the environment. Like, it's really important to remember to bring them in and have that conversation. That happened a lot. Like Ash was in Florida when that hurricane just hit, and her and I were praying to the elementals together, asking them to take it easy on Florida. And she said the hurricane was on a pathway, a direction, and it moved over a little bit and went into the water. And when it moved over a little bit,
they're beings. They're light beings.
Yeah,
they're light beings with an intelligence, and people take them for granted. They don't even realize that there's a light being in the water. There's a light being in the air. There's a light being. There's many light beings in the earth. There's a lot of beings. Everything is alive in some form.
Yeah, they like, and that's what I think is a really cool thing, or what makes crystals so unique, is that if we keep in mind that the crystals come from the earth, and that water has an energy and a spirit, and that the earth has an energy and a spirit, fire has an energy and a spirit.
We happen to be mostly water, so
Yeah. So there's
our bodies are water.
Unique qualities that go into each one of these crystals that make them what they are.
Back on topic.
Yes, sorry.
What do you want?
Back on topic is, okay, I like how you said it. Depression is looking towards the past, and is the solution.
No, it's experiencing the past again, not looking towards it. Then it doesn't have to be looking towards it. It involves that in a way, but it's like going over and over and over it again. It's like going through the memory of it, going through the feelings of it, going through the past of it. And we encourage that a lot of times, to do that, but letting go, if it's causing, depression, there's so many symptoms of depression. There's so many different kinds and so many reasons for it. If it is here's the deal as far as I'm concerned, from my perspective.
Okay.
If it is interfering with my day,
yeah.
If I can't function,
mm-hmm.
or I'm having, phobias, and I'm having limitations on myself or put on me by these things. If any of that is the case, because it's a mood disease, right? MOOD.
Mm-hmm.
Mood disease. If it interferes with my life, where I'm depressed all the time, I'm angry, I am fearful, like little kids can be fearful that something's going to happen to their parent, and then what would they do? Because they see all the stuff on TV and
mm-hmm.
stuff,
mm-hmm.
and it creates anxiety. There's people that have panic attacks, where their body responds to some kind of anxiety, and they, sometimes they have trouble breathing. It just comes on. It's like a wave that comes on, and so on. There's so many different ways that it can happen. But again, if we let go of the past being more important than the now, And we keep going back to the past, and we keep going back to the memories. And we keep, now, if you're going back through something to work it out, if you're going back through something to understand it so that it won't happen again, if you're going back for a learning aspect, that's different. I mean, I'm not talking about, but it shouldn't be over and over and over and over again.
Right. What happens? I mean, this I feel like you'll have a good, clear answer for. I have a loved one who had someone pass away recently, and she said, you know, I definitely am depressed, and we were talking about the role of grief, and you know, we talk about how people feel justified in their grieving, that it's reasonable that when someone we love crosses over, that we feel grief, and we can feel that grief for as long as we want to. But if that grief manifests in as depression, and a year later you're still in that grief-stricken place or depressed place, I said, what's really the value of that? So can you maybe clear up that role? I mean, I know it's a subjective thing, but you know, we've been talking about celebrating after the loss of a loved one, grief after the loss of a loved one. You know, where is maybe the healthy way to put grief?
It sometimes when people have not said what they wanted to say to someone, or they didn't act, they've been angry at them and now they're gone and they can't make up, it can't be caught up, mm-hmm. so to speak. Mm-hmm. At least it can be, but people don't think it can be. So the difference is, again, if I really love somebody, do I want them to see me crying and trying to hold them here? Mm-hmm. Would they want that? They don't want it, because they're in a better place. And we use that phrase, they're in a better place. Well, they probably are. Mm-hmm. And so, why? I mean, I'm not saying that that a person who leaves here angry and terrible, and they've done really bad things, that they go right straight into feeling better. I don't know. That they probably have to go back over what they, why they did what they did, and come up with a plan to, correct it. But and the plan is always a positive one. So, but I'm not saying that people leave and it's good and here is really bad and you should leave here because it's really good over there. I'm not saying that. Mm-hmm. I'm saying, what I am saying is, I get what I think. So if people have a bad attitude about death, and they have a bad attitude that, the person, is suffering and it's terrible, or most of the time it's because we're lonely for the person and we miss them. Mm-hmm. Or it wasn't enough time to get everything done, or you weren't ready for them to leave. Well, there's a day in and day out, and the same thing can happen in our own life. We need to make the best of what we can out of our life. Right. So, and we need to understand whatever journey I'm on and what I needed to learn. I don't want to miss it.
So what do we do with the grief? How do we? Okay, this person we love crossed over. We can't do anything about that. But you can't. The grief is, there's nothing you can do about it. Mm-hmm. You can't bring them back. I mean, you could actually. You can communicate with them on the other side many times, But again, the grief comes that you just had something happen that you couldn't control. And it wasn't your idea. Yeah. And it could be a child. I mean, it could be somebody, something happens to someone that you really care about, and it feels terrible. I was just talking to someone today and I remembered that they had this thing. They were so upset about their mother passing. And they were mad at God, and they were mad at God for quite a while, until they realized the person was better off. It's not fair to ask them to come back. But you can always put a dish of food there and tell them to sit down at the table, and the only thing that happens with the people on the other side is, well, a lot of it can happen in a good way. In a lot of ways it can. But the biggest thing is they vibrate at a faster vibration than we do. They're not dense. Mm-hmm. So I have two questions here. One, Lucy says, "Hi, Nancy. I love the fascinating topics here. What did you say about the M's on the palm? Can you explain the M's?" The M's are masters. 144,000 of highly evolved Christ energy
very highly evolved beings, made a decision to come to Earth during the Pisces age, right at the fall of the War of the Heavens, and come and help the human race that was going to be born into a false age.
Mm-hmm.
And created in a false age. And it was thought at the time that what do we do with these human race, because they are not going to have the ability to evolve. They don't have the millions and billions of years the rest of the universe has and the rest of the galaxy has had. What are we going to do? How is that fair to them? They're Christ, they're an energy, they're a spirit. How can we, so it was decided that we would come and assist the human race, and that we would, what we would do is we'd go through, we understood God. We didn't, the spirit, God, divine, whatever you want to call it, Christ. We understood that because we came from it, but we didn't understand dark. We did not understand negative. So we came in to learn about the negative so we could overcome it and give it as a gift, our lessons as a gift to anyone who needed it during this time period of going through this photon belt. So we were masters. We came to help. First, we came as to do service and save the human race as much as we could. Then now it's not about saving. It's already been saved. And it's not about saving. It's about demonstrating where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
Peace, harmony, well-being, happy. But they have to choose it. And so the masters are the demonstrators. The masters we're the teachers, are the teachers. The masters are the beings that are lighting up the planet so others can see. They're lighting candles. They came for this time period, right, that we're in right now, to help get as many as possible through this photon belt.
Right. And as we're ascending too, moving from third into low, fourth into the high.
That's the same thing I'm saying.
Yeah. And then the other question is partners. So they were talking about, I have a woman here, and she said her husband passed away a year ago, and that she's contemplating getting back into dating, and she feels
good.
Part of her feels guilty, part of her feels nervous, and part of her feels like if she was going to embrace dating, that she was nervous about seeing her husband as a ghost. So she asked me to ask you on the show, like,
well, number one, I love that. In fact, I thought about that kind of question today because of some things. But anyway, they're fine. They're on the other side. They're in a good place. They don't think this low third dimension thinking there.
mm-hmm.
It doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So I celebrate her. I hope she finds, this time period is that it takes, sometimes it takes partners, and maybe her husband at the time was not her soul twin, but he was a soulmate, and spent the time with her, they spent time together and so forth. That doesn't minimize the importance of it.
Mm-hmm.
But
mm-hmm.
The fact that he passed, then, the nature, a lot of places, a lot of different religions, have the person remarry right away, to keep it going like that. But no, her decision, guilt, first of all, guilt is a total waste of time.
Right.
And it's a destroyer. So until she feels that she can date and she goes to have fun, and she's not trying to have an expectation, this is going to be the man of my dreams and he's going to be perfect or not, but I'm going to attract as close to that as I can find.
Mm-hmm.
Right. She's going to attract it. You want to attract you want to be the kind of woman that you want to have whatever you want the male to be, you be the feminine side of it.
Right. Vice versa.
So, not that they're going to fix you, not that it's going to, do, but they're about having fun and enjoying and maybe finding a soulmate, a soul twin, whichever is the name of the game. And going forward is definitely the name of the game.
Yeah, yeah. So what about the last part? I know it's a little like, bashful as a subject, but she was like, I'm worried that I'm going to see my husband as a ghost, and
You're
like,
not gonna, number one, I doubt if you see him as a ghost, and number two, if you did, he would probably say he's probably going to point out the person for you. He's probably going to help you find the right person.
I can't wait to share this podcast with her. That's going to be great.
No, I mean that's the way it works a lot of times.
Aw.
That's what I'm feeling. I mean, I think she this guilt thing. How long? Okay, how long does she have to wait to want to have a relationship? What's the time period? Is it a year? Is it 3 years? Is it 6 years? Is it 100 years? What do you have to do? Die before you're ready? No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I mean, my stepdad's coming up on a decade since my mom passed away. He hasn't dated anybody.
He had issues.
I know. Big love. But no, I agree with you. When
God
is
bless him, he had issues, because,
when is the right time?
That was not a normal. We can't compare everything. That wasn't an easy thing to go through. So.
Yeah. Well, like, my stepdad, he's like, your mom was my best friend. And although I think about dating somebody else,
And that's individual person.
That's
each individual person's, we have free will. I mean, it's one thing to decide I'm not ready to date someone else, or I don't feel the need to date someone else. That's one thing. But I can't date because of guilt. I can't date because I'm going to feel bad. I want to date, but I can't date because of this and this and this and this.
Then you're not really getting
social biases and anything and everything. I'm not allowed to be happy. I got to be unhappy for X amount of time and so on. Those are the wrong reasons to not date.
Yeah.
If I don't want to, and I don't feel it, and I'm not going out looking and so on, that's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
But if I want to, and I'm lonely, and I want to feel, I like men companionships, and I miss being married, I miss having and I would like to find someone else. There's something. I don't think it's not my. I don't think there's anything wrong with going forward. I think we're supposed to go forward.
Absolutely. I'm glad
one way or another you go forward. It's up to you.
Right. And I think that's a tricky thing when it comes to like death, because when we have a parent or a child or all those different relationships, the relationship one, like husband wife, wife husband, that sort of thing, our lives are tied to them. So I think we have a different construct about when our partner passes away, because we are used to them in the same space.
Those are belief systems.
Okay.
Or they're just feelings. If the person just feels that, I just don't feel motivated to do that, that's fine.
Right.
As long as they're not unhappy and complaining.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, from the people that I've met, seen, read for, what have you, they want to move the guilt out of the way. They want permission to be able to move on. They don't need
permission. They're alive. They're breathing. They're the ones that are still here. They're the breathing, live people.
Right.
That are here, that are trying to be here in this time period. And this time period's not an easy time period sometimes. It's going to go to light, but right now it's just got a lot of stuff going on.
Okay.
So why can't I be happy? My partner's death, I've had a number of them lately. But people that I care about, they're not dead. They're still alive and they're in a good place. I'm the one still here.
Right. Yeah, I know that you've friends, partner, multiple, kind of all together. Your sister.
They don't want, the person on the other side doesn't want us to be unhappy.
No, they don't.
Spirit doesn't want us to be unhappy, and I don't want to be unhappy. So, if the right person comes in and or if you just go out without an expectation and having fun and enjoying, life and so on, there's nothing. Why would I feel guilty? There's nothing to be guilty about. It's not your fault that the person went to a higher level.
Yeah. I think
because if you were so great and wonderful, that made it easy for him. But that has nothing to do with you being here and you have to stay alone and suffer.
No, and I agree with that. Mom, there was another question here that talks about separation. Nancy, and I'm not sure exactly what the answer is. This is definitely a you question. Nancy, how long, we're in a place of separation now. How long till that separation is unified? And I assume that means like 3D separation, and how long until we get to the high fourth?
Well, we're already moving into the fourth dimension. We're already going into the astral plane.
Mm-hmm.
But how long depends on when do people make the choice to be love, peace, and harmony and well-being.
Okay. All right.
In the fifth dimension, in the now, there is no time.
Mm-hmm.
There's choices.
Right. It's what we know.
It doesn't have time. I mean, there's no time in the fifth dimension. It's in the now. How can you have time when you're in the now? Every now is a brand new second, a brand new ability to change, a brand new choice, a brand new opportunity. Every second, every minute is brand new.
Right.
So whatever I did before, I don't have to do it again. Whatever I went through before, I don't have to do it again. The only way that we do things over and over again is till we get the lesson, till we understand it.
Question here too. Nancy, I was raised in an atheist household, and I want to believe in God because I know it's good for me, but it doesn't feel natural.
Do you believe in frequency? Because if you want to call God, spirit, or whatever, it's a frequency. It just happens to be the frequency of love.
Okay.
So if you, I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for everyone who feels that they are an atheist or something. I think a lot of people that I have come across over years that say they're an atheist are people that just don't believe the same way that everyone else believes about God. It's not that they don't believe in a higher power. They just don't believe that. They don't believe in a religious kind of situation. That's all it is. So there's something about all that other stuff. It doesn't resonate with them.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean they don't believe in a higher power.
I thought atheist meant you don't believe in God.
No, well, that's the way people interpret it, but that's not. If you ask an atheist, a lot of people will say, I believe in a higher power, I just don't believe in the Bible, I just don't believe in the religion, I don't have a religious connotation to it. Which probably, but if people believe in frequency, it's a high frequency. It's the highest frequency. It's everything. It created everything. So I think if that's an easier understanding, I don't think people, just because they say they're an atheist, they don't believe in something
okay.
more than themselves. They just don't know what it is, or they haven't figured out, or maybe they have figured it out and they know it's not true. The other stuff is not true.
Does this mean too, like if we can know, okay, so if God is love, and if you, like, I'm just putting myself in the position, if I was raised in a house that told me God wasn't real, or I grew up that way, and I'm now surrounded by friends, that are talking to me about the concepts or the things that we talk about here on this podcast, or the importance of living, or, practicing certain things. Now this is all new information to me, and I would like to incorporate their happiness and, I want to be happy like them, and they are practicing these things. So how could I explore that for myself? And if the exploration is, I don't have to suffer. Life doesn't have to be so hard. God can make it better for me. Well, now who is this God? Now, what
maybe
is
God is everything. Maybe it doesn't have a personality. Maybe it's huge. It's everything. Maybe it can't be defined. Maybe it's too amazing and too big and too beyond to profile it. And if people were taught, people here on Earth in this time period, in this last age, were taught that God is outside. There's an outside God. Mm-hmm. I think there's an inside God, and then it shows all kinds of things where it is everywhere else outside.
Mm-hmm.
And people want to believe in a personality. That's fine. Whatever they want to believe in, as long as they understand whatever they want to understand. I'm not here. I'm here to teach that which is most difficult to teach about a topic most difficult taught. I know that.
Yeah, and you're so good at it.
God is inside. It's whatever, the word God is really tough now. I try to figure out different words, like divine, creator, there's just a lot of different terms that might be more accurate because there were lower gods. There were 4 lower gods of earth that were what we call the evil side of it. So gods were given, the name God was given to a lot of beings that could do things that the human race couldn't do, so they named them as God. So, everybody, I don't care what people call, as long as they're happy and they're peaceful and they're loving and they are where they want to be. If they don't want to be that, then so be it. That's okay. Eventually, they'll they could change their mind.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean everyone has to believe the same way, the same thing.
It's true. I feel like...
it's creation. It's creative. Obviously, the different birds with the colors I sent out on my post, nobody even realizes there are all these kind of birds. With all these different colors. Now, who created that? Who created all this stuff? Who created all the elementals? Who created this? Who created that? How did all this become? And this is just Earth. Earth is just one of many. It's just a speck. It's a tiny speck on a grain of sand. And yet it's as important as everything else on all the sands. So how can we try to define it? All I can do is this vast ocean of love, peace, and harmony, and grace, and all the good things. I'm just a drop. And I'm an important drop because I'm a drop here on Earth trying to light up and keep myself in alignment of the universal laws and to help wherever I can. And that's where everyone else who's listening here is the same way. You have your own version of it, but we're all the same thing. The ends are the same way.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of these subjects, like the depression, anxiety, and disappointment, come down to perception, how we see something. And when our brain, that's why I like in my shadow work and surrender classes, I talk about what the brain is doing, or, here's the neurology of how your brain wants to, the amygdala is responsible for our fight or flight, but the neocortex helps us to stay in a better place. There was actually a documentary done that said, people who believe in God or a higher power have a more developed neocortex and the ability to overcome things that are challenging or hardship because they have that trust in God.
Well,
it changes their brain.
With the vibration of truth or reality or whatever, when you're in alignment, it's vast and it's automatic. So, but you know what? It's late. So, are there any more questions?
No, and thank you for that. We'll cap it right here. But I love all you guys, and thank you so much for all your questions tonight. And I look forward to what the next podcast brings next Wednesday at 9. So, thank you, everyone, and we love you.
Bye.